Hey, what's up? This is Jason Drone. Welcome to today's presentation. Today's Get Shit Done Daily. It is Monday. This is our 16th episode, which is crazy. And I went to start this thing and my computer rebooted. So that is why I'm a couple minutes late. And I got these weird notifications here. So let me just clear this. All right, cool. So I'm clearing those up. Today we're going to talk about automated webinars. Basically an automated webinar sales funnel. We're going to do a deep dive into these sales funnels so that you can learn, discover, how to sell high-ticket coaching, high-ticket consulting, complex products, basically anything above $1,000. So just a little bit of housekeeping first. If you are not on, let's see. So first of all, presentation today, automated webinar funnel. It's 4 tricks to maximizing high ticket conversions. We are going to go through all of the pages you need inside an automated webinar funnel. We're going to talk about the assets that you need inside that funnel. We're going to talk about the email copy that you need inside that funnel. And we're also going to talk about how to put it all together and some of the variations and call to actions of that thing. So we are in for a pretty jam-packed ride, as long as my computer doesn't, stop and freeze and whatever. So, there is that. This Mac was an absolute beast when I bought it. It has 2 cores. It has like 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I bought it like in 2013 or 14. So this thing is still like my most dependable workhorse, machine. And this is basically what it does. It just kind of does live streams and it codes videos and does all that stuff. But for whatever reason, it kind of has an issue right now. So, all right, automated webinar funnel, 4 tricks for maximizing high ticket conversions. I am going to share. So we're going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to kick over into my iPad view. I'm going to drag my screen up. So this presentation, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through the entire automated webinar sales funnel from front to back. And then we're going to pick it all apart. So we're going to talk about the assets that you need in order to, in order to deploy one of these in your business. We're going to talk about what it sells, how you can generate revenue from it. And then we're going to go through and talk about all the pieces, and then, pieces and parts and some of the intricacies and variations of it. So webinar sales funnel. Now the webinar sales funnel, an automated webinar sales funnel, is really best used for predominantly for coaching and consulting. So all in all, coaching and consulting are where these webinar sales funnels are most typically deployed anymore. Oftentimes with digital products, there's a slightly different route. Sometimes you end up having like a $1,000 product here, there, or a $2,000 product or a $3,500 product, but not so much anymore. For the most part, digital products anymore, at least, they kind of go through an upsell funnel. And they did previous, but back, probably 10 years ago when Frank Kern and Ryan Dice and all of them, they were heavy into the digital product game, mass control, and, all of those kinds of things. Most people, kind of just started with a webinar and then sold into their high ticket thing. Now, for the most part, when you have a digital product, you sell up into the high ticket product, as opposed to starting with a webinar and then going down. So oftentimes these automated webinar funnels are more for consulting, coaching, where the pitch, the call to action is signing up for a strategy session or signing up for an action plan call or whatever, so coaching and consulting, definitely the way to go there. Digital products over $1,000, you can lead right into, if you're selling something over $1,000, you can sell it on a webinar, an automated webinar, and any kind of service that is more complex in nature. More complex meaning there's more customization that needs to happen in order for them to really understand the value that you provide and the value you bring. So it's not the perfect example, but a good example is like window installation. But you can have a company can have a webinar talking about the benefits of new windows, schedule consults, and then the consult basically is going and seeing how many windows you need, what the sizes you need, blah blah blah. Doing the proposal and so on and so forth. Another one is anything internet marketing related, like sales funnels or Facebook ads or affiliate marketing or whatever, because there's so much customization that needs. Every business needs to be addressed. Every business model needs to be addressed. The way that the offers end up being structured in the sales funnel, that is all custom. So oftentimes these webinar, a webinar leading to a strategy session is a lot more potent of a pitch than a webinar leading to an add to cart that then has a very generic message that isn't customized. So that's really where webinars work really well. And as you can see from a general format standpoint, we have, so basically we have traffic here, and then traffic goes into, this is all the front end stuff. And from there, so there's the front end. And then it goes into the webinar. The webinar is the asset, the sales copy, the thing that actually makes the pitch. And then it goes into the sell. And then it goes into fulfillment. So now the core pieces that you need in order to pull off an automated webinar sales funnel. So the most important piece is a webinar is the webinar presentation itself. Now there are 3 different ways that you can kind of so the webinar presentation, it follows a very specific format. Like ours, we ended up introducing the subject matter expert, our client or ourselves or whatever, and then we ask a couple questions to get everybody engaged, and then there's always a content piece, so the content piece is 3 secrets or 5 secrets or 3 things or 5 steps or whatever. It's meant to evoke like an aha moment in the prospect's, the viewer's mind, prospect. And then it ends up, you transition into the pitch, and the pitch ends up, moving through, getting them into the sales process, whether it's an add to cart button or a strategy session or whatever. So the webinar presentation is like the most crucial piece, but there are 3 ways to do the webinar. So from a webinar standpoint, you can do live, and so many Zoom, like now we have all the Zoom live presentations. So you can do it live. You can schedule it out a little bit. So you can schedule it, let's say today's Monday, you can schedule it Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, so people can sign up for it, and then, they can attend the webinar. The problem is for you to do live, you also need your own distribution, meaning you need your own email list, or you need your own following, or you need your own vested community that values or that will show up, that actually gives a damn about you. That's the problem with live in a paid traffic sense, because what happens is if you push too far out, and you don't have a community that kind of keys into your message, then nobody's going to show up, so, which is fine if you don't mind. But if nobody shows up, why do it live? Why not do automated? You know what I mean? So the second way is you can do automated. And automated typically, so with automated, what we like to do is just in time. Well, what we used to like to do is just in time. So basically your automated webinar was every day at 3 p.m. Eastern, your webinar went live, so everybody who signed up today jumped on the 3 p.m. Eastern webinar, they attended the webinar, and then they took the call to action, and then you got sales calls and sales and all that stuff booked every day. Then it transitioned a couple years ago into just in time. So just in time was the webinar starts every 15 minutes or every 60 minutes or whatever. The just-in-time webinar, basically what ended up happening was if you went live, then your attendance was typically about 35% for live. For automated, it jumped to about 45%. Typically, if it was same day automated. If it was just in time, it went to 55%. So just in time basically means, you register now and then in 15 minutes, the webinar starts, so it was great. 55% is a hell of a lot more than 35%. So that's fantastic. The problem is you're still dropping 45% off right here, so there's 45% who aren't doing anything. So what we've been doing lately is literally on demand. So on demand has been what we've been setting up now on demand. So on demand is somebody comes in, they hit paid traffic, they jump into a free report or straight to a webinar registration page, and then they get immediately kicked into the video. Basically it's an on-demand webinar replay, and then they go through the call to action. So the thing about the on-demand webinars is they have 100% attendance because you didn't give them a choice. They sign up, they hit the webinar replay, and then they're emailed a link to also for that webinar replay. You do see some drop off, because there are people who come back, but there's a whole lot more people who watch all the way through, and actually make it all the way to the call to action, which ends up putting them into the fulfillment section. So the webinar presentation, 3 ways to do it: live, automated, or just in time, or on demand. In terms of tools, so live, we're kind of old fashioned, GoToWebinar for live. There's another tool that we really like. It's Jet Webinar. Super nice. Automated webinar is Jet Webinar or EverWebinar. Although we haven't really been using EverWebinar all that much lately, because we've been doing on demand, and on demand literally is, pages. So you don't need any fancy webinar tools or software or whatever for on demand. It's a webinar registration page, a webinar room page, webinar replay page, and the videos just kick on whenever somebody starts. You can also do the just in time webinars without software. It's just a timed button. So basically, when the button counts down 15 minutes or 60 minutes, then it kicks over into the next page, and the next page is programmed to start live. So there's lots of ways to do it here. Now, the lead magnet is the other piece of this puzzle. So we always employ a lead magnet in all of our sales funnels because people in general, they're immediate gratification oriented. They want to be able to download something, page through something, and see if you're full of shit or not, or see, if they're good in investing time with you. And a lead magnet is a great way to do it. And a lead magnet, I think we've done a couple dailies on lead magnets, but lead magnet can be a report, it can be a checklist, it can be, a one pager, it can be a download, a flow chart, or whatever. It can be a video, but typically we found videos perform worse than like a PDF based lead magnet. It depends on the market you're in. But lead magnet works too. Now, the next piece of this process is the pages of it. So anybody have any questions so far? In the chat box, if you can let me know, that would be fantastic. We got a bunch of people watching. Okay, cool. All right, so if you got questions, go ahead and fill them in the chat there. That would be lovely. All right, so the core pages of the automated webinar funnel. So you have your lead magnet lander and your lead magnet confirmation page. So basically, you have your lead magnet here, and then this kicks over into a lead magnet confirmation. And how we do them is we do like a step 1, step 2. So this is a trick that I learned back from the old school direct response days. So when you do a step 1, step 2 on a confirmation page, about 60% of people actually do both. They actually download the lead magnet and they register for the webinar and they watch the video and they buy the thing that you want them to buy. If it's linked directly to like a sales page. So we do the step 1, step 2 on all of our confirmations, unless there isn't a step 2, so there usually is. Even if you're not necessarily selling something, your step 2 could be signing up for a survey. But from there, they get kicked over into the webinar registration, which is right there. And then the webinar room replay, the webinar room and webinar replay kind of fall out of that. So here you have webinar room, and then you have the replay. And those are used in the email sequences. And both of those, move people into the call to action, which goes into fulfillment. And then the last one is the strategy session scheduling page. And that's if you are you're getting them to schedule a strategy session, then you want to move them into like, hey, fill out this form, and it might be an application. It might be, a straight up form. It might be a calendar link. It's really up to you what your process is. Generally, I always kick this back into a CRM so that we can run marketing automation based on whether they scheduled or whether they didn't schedule or whatever. So your email copy to pull this all off. Now, this is where the magic happens in terms of marketing automation. So you need a lead magnet fulfillment sequence. And that is so that's generally this email right here. It's just one. Sometimes it's 2 emails. And basically it says, thanks so much for downloading the lead magnet. Here's the link. In the next couple of days, we have a lot more coming for you, a lot more to share, whatever. And then that lot more to share is the webinar registration sequence or the webinar promo sequence, which gets them to sign up for the webinar. Now, once they sign up for the webinar, then they kick over into, I'm just going to change to a highlighter here, the webinar replay sequence. So inside the webinar replay sequence, that's right there. So webinar replay sequence says, hey, thanks so much for signing up for the webinar, blah, blah, blah. You missed a great show. Here's your link in case you want to watch it again. Here's your link in case you didn't watch it the first time. And this webinar replay sequence can be it can be cut up a lot of different ways. I mean, you can have the webinar, the emails that go out for when somebody watches the webinar, or the emails that go out for when somebody doesn't watch the webinar, or they attend or don't attend or leave early or whatever, so you can cut this replay sequence up into 4 or 5 variations if it suits you. In order to do that, you need to have some serious traffic going through, because if it's just onesie twosie kind of sequences, emails a day, you're just better off driving them all into a replay. But if you literally have 300 or 400 people signed up on your webinar every single day, then it makes sense to kind of pull them off, spend the time in pulling them off. Then you're going to see results from it. Otherwise, you're not. If you have 20 registrations a day, you're not going to see the results that you're hoping for by spending all the extra time and rewriting all the sequences and setting up the automation and the triggers and all that other stuff. And then the last one is the strategy session promo sequence. So, and it's not shown on here, but when somebody goes through and the webinar, they go through the webinar, and then the call to action is to book a sales call. Then we send them emails after they go through the webinar replay but don't do anything. We send them emails to then book into the strategy session. So that's a typical scenario. Now, this ends up being about 30 days worth of content if they get all the emails. If they don't get all the emails, which you hope they don't, because that means they're not moving through, then it ends up being about 3 days. So it can go as long or as short as needed. Now, a couple different ways to frame up this automated webinar sequence. So the first is, you have Facebook traffic. This one is kind of it's an expanded architecture, meaning The automated webinar is the first thing. It's the first chunk of the promo, but understanding that, 95, 92% of people are not going to take the offer on the automated webinar. What we're going to do is try to peel off additional sales. So this automated webinar chunk, this piece at the top, this is all the same right here. But what happens afterwards is a little bit different. So if they don't take action on our offer right there, then what we want to do is we want to send them a couple more emails and then go into the features and benefits VSL. So what that is it's just a sales video where you play up the features and benefits, because this chunk, the automated webinar funnel, is very emotionally charged. So oftentimes it doesn't necessarily hit all like the logical buttons and logical cues that an automated webinar sales funnel needs to hit in order to make the sale. So what we do is we kind of, switch gears a little bit. And when we talk about features and benefits, then it gets into the logical side. Usually it'll trigger the logical side. And then what we want to do is we want to peel off a couple more sales into fulfillment. And if they don't do anything there, then we send some more emails. We send them to an objections VSL. So in the objections VSL is 3 or 5 or 8 questions that people ask before they buy. And you probably already know this because of your just kind of being around on the webinar registration. If you run live webinars, then you know what they are. If you've been on sales calls, you know what the objections are. Also, if you do any kind of chat or anything, last Friday we did a chatbot live stream. So if you do chat, you know what their objections are too. You have an idea of what they are at least. So then you do an objections VSL. If they still don't buy, email copy into the next offer, promo, affiliate offer, whatever. So this takes the automated webinar funnel and turns it into about a 45-day affair. And it's quite a bit more work because you have your VSLs and a bunch more email copy, a bunch more automation, but it works out nicely. Now, another variation is a strategy session with a book and a course downsell. So what we're doing here is high ticket coaching consulting, low ticket book course. So you either want the help, and if you do, that's awesome. And if you don't, then there's a course or a book, something that is hands off from a vendor standpoint. But it's hands off, but you still become a buyer and you can upsell into the coaching service or consulting service or whatever if you want. So we've done this quite a few times too with our clients. But basically it is, let me go back to yellow here. So we have our paid traffic up front. We go into a free report, webinar registration, all the same. The strategy session pitch, is the pitch. You peel off your buyers, your clients, from that strategy session. But those who don't schedule, they don't, want the help, they don't want the coaching, they don't want the consulting, whatever. Then what we do is we send them into a I think I just deactivated my stream here. There we go. All right. There we go. Good. Perfect. So those people who, so they don't bite on the sales call, then they end up getting downsold into a free plus shipping book sales offer, and then a course upsell. And if no action is taken on there, then they go into like an affiliate or JV promo. So there's lots of ways to go, about that way. And I think that's it for this variation presentation. So there's lots of different ways to work through the automated webinar sales funnel. The most important thing really is, first of all, you have your sales copy created. You have your automated webinar, your webinar sales copy, and you figure out what is going to work from your demographic standpoint. Meaning whether it's live, automated, or on demand, is more about who you're selling to than anything else. Like I said, if you're doing live, you should do it to your list or an affiliate list or the prospects need to have a vested interest in somebody doing the webinar in order for them to attend live. If they don't, then automated is your best bet. And if automation at a certain time is beneficial, like the BizOps scene, well, the BizOps scene typically automated at 9 p.m. Eastern has always been the absolute best way to sell BizOps products. However, right now it can be whenever because nobody is, in an office. Whereas your business development scene is going to be working hours, so typically noon, 1, always great from a business development standpoint, from an automated standpoint. Now, if you have a very busy market, contractors, CEOs, on demand right away typically works even better. So you have to take that into consideration. Who am I marketing to? That is going to tell you when, whether it should be live, automated, or on demand. The next piece is getting your architecture, your sales funnel, your pages set up. Like I said, you don't necessarily need a great bit of software, but having your lead magnet lander that is very high conversion, and you can split test them and do all that. And then your webinar registration page. Those are the 2 primary pages that all of your traffic is going to come through. They need to be super on point, split tested headlines, split tested buttons, like the whole deal. And then your email copy, you want to make sure that you have a full complement of email copies created. So we have, these 4 email sequences are the most important. And then you can throw in any of the additional offers if you want. You can throw in a book downsell or a course downsell. In this mix, when you peel off your buyers on the top side. So that is webinar funnel, or at least how we think of and build webinar sales funnels. So any questions over in the chat box, let me know. I'm going to flip this thing back over to, all right. So, all right. Now, perfect. So first of all, thank you. Well, last of all, really, I guess. Thank you so much for joining me for today's presentation. We went a little bit long because of the snafu in the beginning. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about fully qualified lead sales funnels. So it's going to be kind of the same format, only it's going to be all about, generating fully qualified leads from a sales video, as opposed to, kicking them all the way through an automated funnel. So my thinking is this week is going to be sales funnels. Next week is going to be startups, like creating businesses, creating digital products, services, finding your passion, like all of that kind of stuff. But this week we're going to talk executionally about selling all of this stuff. So that's the idea. If you need anything at all, go sign up for an action plan call at doneforyou.com/start. And make sure that if you have any questions, go to doneforyou.com/GSD, enter those questions, and then we'll try to fit them into a future episode. And we will be back tomorrow morning with fully qualified lead sales funnels. And I'll talk to you soon. All right. Thanks.